Hello and welcome to Hamer Reviews. My name is Christopher Hamer and today we're reviewing the Sony PlayStation 5. Now, games consoles are something that are pretty close to my heart. I've been very lucky in that I had the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, then the Nintendo N64, and then from there moved my way into Sony's PlayStation world and have had every iteration since the PlayStation 2. I really enjoy gaming on a console because I find it's generally less faff than gaming on PC. There's nothing wrong with PC gaming, and I do occasionally enjoy it. But when it comes to just wanting to have a quick round of something, or a quick play on something like Gran Turismo, or any other racing game for that matter, something like a console I just think is more immersive and more fun. My issue recently has been that the PlayStation 4 is so noisy. I've really noticed this during lockdown, where I've been playing a little bit more in my bedroom, using my PC monitor as a monitor, and then using headphones as a speaker. And if you have someone else in that room and you have your PlayStation running, even if it's on the menu system on some games, mine sounds like it's trying to take off. Now, as I said, this is fine if you have the volume on a TV. But if you're playing silently, so to speak, well, it becomes a bit of an issue. So the PlayStation 5 update for me wasn't so much about the increased performance, though absolutely is something I wanted. It was about whether it would be a more usable experience in that kind of situation as well, and my God, has Sony delivered. The PlayStation 5 is a massive monolith in terms of its size. It really is huge. And when you compare that to something like the PlayStation 4, you can really tell that Sony's been doing some interesting things when it comes to the console. I think we've got an improved cooling solution among all the other benefits, and it runs whisper quiet. I've tried a variety of games from PlayStation 4 titles to PlayStation 5 titles, and it barely goes above a whisper, which is just fantastic. I'm really pleased that Sony's been able to do that. Obviously, another big improvement on the PlayStation 5 is the new DualSense controller. Gone is the old-fashioned vibration style feedback. We now have haptic feedback, which is really focused around those triggers, which now have force feedback as well. I've actually got a separate video coming on the PlayStation 5 controller, but needless to say, it's super comfortable, really easy to use, quite fun to use, though it can be fatiguing in terms of that haptic feedback on the triggers, so that's something to look out for. In terms of the interface, it will look very similar to any of you that have used the PlayStation 4 or previous PlayStation 3. It hasn't changed a huge amount, and I think that's fine. It's easy to use, it's quick and simple to move games around, and what I really like is the fact, as I mentioned before, you can use PlayStation 4 titles as well. Although it won't play PlayStation 3 titles unless they've been ported across, you do have a really good choice, and one thing that I thought was very, very impressive was that if you're using an external hard drive to add storage for your PlayStation 4 titles, you just need to plug that hard drive into the PS5 with all your games pre-installed from the PlayStation 4, and it just works. And I think that's a very clever way that Sony has actually worked it so that that software is completely compatible. There were some game updates that I had to execute from that point, but overall it was a seamless experience and I could start my games up in really short space of time. This particular edition that I've got is the version with a disk drive. You can also get it without one. Now, the disk drive for me is really important because it means I can use my PlayStation 4 titles that I have on disk, and also if you want to resell your games later, having a disk drive is a bonus. If you don't choose a disk drive version, you can actually get a much slimmer console because you lose that sort of bump on the bottom right-hand side and save a bit of space, and it's also a bit cheaper, but obviously you won't be able to play those titles from disk, which can be a problem if you want to buy cheaper titles further down the line in a few years. There's some other standout features that are interesting. We finally have USB-C on the controller for charging, which is great. The controller has a built-in microphone, also very clever. I think that's a good touch and great for those of you that just want to use standard headphones and still want to be able to speak with your fellow gamers. On the front of the console, you have a USB-C and USB-A output even, that allows you to plug in a cable to charge the controllers or add other accessories. On the back of the controller, we've got something slightly different. We actually have a Two, USB-A ports, which will allow you to add storage. So those are for your extended storage only. If you plug one into the front, the PlayStation won't let you use it. That's because the ones on the rear are actually high-speed ports which support your SSD of choice. I wouldn't use a standard hard drive. Other things I've noticed with the PlayStation 5, frame rates are well above on the PlayStation 4, which is kind of to be expected given the massive amount of compute power that these have. You also have a few other nice touches. I think that the design is much better than the PlayStation 4. It just looks a bit cooler, even if it is massive and monolithic. You've got a nice amount of choice when it comes to outputting your video, so you can actually in certain games choose whether you want performance or quality, much in the same way you'd choose on a PC game. I don't think this is a choice we've had before, so it's nice to see Sony thinking ahead and giving gamers more choice. In terms of launch titles, so I haven't actually used a huge amount of PS5 titles because I haven't been able to get hold of the discs, and I do prefer to buy the discs if I can. World Rally Championship 9 was a game that was PS5 rather than PS4, so I played that. That's been really impressive, and you can really see where developers have used the haptics from the controller to enhance the gameplay. Call of Duty Cold War is another title that makes use of that. But even if you're playing something like Destiny 2, although it hasn't been ported over to the PlayStation 5, it's still perfectly enjoyable and in much higher resolution, or at least frame rate, than I was getting off my PS4, which could only handle 1080p, whereas obviously this outputs at 4K. The PlayStation 5 is obviously going to be interesting to a lot of people, and I think we're probably going to see shortages for a while yet before Sony manages to work it out, but I don't think that's surprising, especially if you think back to the initial lockdown that many countries had and the scarcity of gaming consoles, even previous generations, such as the Nintendo Switch. The PlayStation 4 for me now is redundant, and I'm going to be getting rid of it, especially as I can play my PS5 games on the PS4 games on the PS5. So there's no real need for me to keep that about, which is nice because I won't have to have something that sounds like a jet taking off in my room every time I want to use it. So overall, the PS5 is a fantastic iteration of Sony's. There's some really great work been done to make that console as good as it is. I definitely think we're going to see more improvement as time goes on and Sony enhances the software. But for now, I can wholeheartedly recommend it. As I said, the controller's fantastic. The actual user interface is very similar to the PS4, which is good. And overall, it's a fantastic gaming experience. I hope you found this review interesting. If you have any questions, pop them in the comment section below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe, as it really helps the channel. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again next time. Goodbye.